Welcome to Modern Anarchy, the podcast featuring real conversations with conscious objectors to the status quo. I'm your host, Nicole.
I tried to keep her quiet, but she's screaming outside of me. I tried to keep her hiding, oh, shut up. I tried to keep her quiet, but she's a wild, wild woman.
Hello, anarchist community. On today's episode, we have the epidemiologist and activist Jason join us for a conversation all about his life as a classic overachiever. And boy, do I resonate with him. I am in that camp. Together, we talk about the importance of continually learning, the need for protection of our artists, and working with the neighborhood to grow towards inclusiveness. Y'all, Jason just provides so many nuggets of wisdom. I think you could kind of pause and restart this episode at any point and just tune into what he is saying and learn from the beautiful metaphors that he uses and the stories from his community and his own personal family that I just think illustrates so many valuable lessons that we can take from life. So I really appreciate you, Jason, for coming on and sharing your personal story and all the wisdom that you had with us on the podcast. So y'all, tune in.
How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm actually doing really, really well.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, what about you?
I'm actually doing well too. I'm sort of, always feeling kind of old and rushed. But that's what happens when you've been on this earth for almost 50 years.
Yeah. Hey, I'm ready to talk about all of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I am too. I'm super excited.
You said old and sluggish.
Always.
Really?
You know how it is, or you don't know how it is.
I don't know. Yeah, tell me.
Probably about less than half my age, but someone on that snowy day in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, way back in 1972, a child was born.
And that child was you.
Fortunately, yes, that child was me. And so it's one of those times in life where you just sort of look around and you realize that, hey, you've been at it so long. When you started, you were in your 20s, you were 19. Now I'm 49. Look back and you reconcile what you've done in that last 30 years. And so actually, as you approach my age, you start to see things a little bit differently. It's taking an accounting of what you've done and seeing what you can do better. The mistakes you made, acknowledging those and acknowledging that those sort of led to the situation where you are today. It's all about just taking it all into context. But yes, it does make one very old and tired. But the show must go on.
Yes. Well, hey, I mean, the show has already started. It sounds like what you're talking about, it sounds like a period of retrospection where you're looking back on yourself and the ways that you've grown and succeeded and failed and how all of that together through that whole journey of ups and downs makes you you.
And it's just not only, when you're thinking about yourself in retrospect, it is about you, but it's not about you as well. Sort of knowing how your actions affected others and others on a trajectory as well and where they are today. It's almost that same old tired quote that we all heard, is there's a ripple effect in all that. And there is. And that's sort of the easy way to say it. As we all march through life searching for, our highest self, using altruism and just trying to be just fully self-realized. It's a journey. And you never, because if you get there, then you're unique. And if you're that unique, then you're going to be miserable. Right. And I mean, to think that we're ever going to be stagnant creatures, that this is my cat. We'll see if absolutely. Right now, while I'm talking about age, is like I said, as you get to your 40s, 50s, and you've either not had kids or had kids raised, your cat. Hey, kid.
Yeah, fat cat. She's made
Yes, I've listened to some podcasts before and I know about your kitty. So.
The cat that hits me.
Right.
The cat that hits me.
See, heard my voice, decided, wait, mom is not paying enough attention to me. I'm not going to hit you with an open claw. yet.
Yes.
That's next.
Yeah, no. It is just Pa.
No, I totally understand. When I first moved to Birmingham, I had a little cat named Sam. And, with a bunch of guys in college and the cat was more like a dog. And
Love that.
yeah, it was an attack cat. But
I mean, they're complex creatures. I truly think there's so much to learn from them. They, have good and bad sides, just like us humans,
Right. But yeah, I got off topic a little bit. What I was saying earlier is, you get to, your 40s, your late 40s, even 30s. Start to sort of just think about, life in a different way, because let's face it, at that point, the time is ticking down. You have to make sure that you still have enough excitement and enough vim and vigor to do the things that you did when you were young. But now at the time where hopefully you've put in enough work to where you have a little bit more power and opportunity to actually make those changes. I loved being young. I loved being young. Having, that's the time for idealism. That's the time for really having sort of mental, social experiments of how things really work. That's to really try as much as you can. That's, you're going to fail. You're young. But never be afraid to fail, even when you are 80 years old. I mean, that's life you want to lead. Sure that you always go out fighting. Making a difference.
Yep. I am so with you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why when you were kind of saying young is the time to experiment and try, I'm still thinking like, yeah, but that's all of life though. I hope, I can still get to my, deathbed saying I've experienced more, even if that's through art or literature or things and different people experiences. There's so much that I hope I'll constantly be growing and changing, and as we continue to age, even just trying to connect with younger generations, that is always going to be, a process.
And that's the thing. Absolutely. I'm lucky enough right now. Let's see, born in 1972.
Okay.
I'm the notorious Gen Xer, right?
Gen X, yeah.
So, you know what, Gen X, you know what everybody thinks about us. Well, let's start.
Well, tell me. Yeah, tell me.
Start about what we think about ourselves. At first, as with any generation, we weren't understood, but the thing that really, I think, sets us apart is we were the beginning of a whole different kind of economy, and different kind of, accepting how our place was in the world. I say that we're the last generation that followed that strictly conservative model. You college, you get a job, you do all that stuff, because we went before some of the big economic downturns that really changed everything. That line cannot be sold on 10 wires and a lot of the millennials, because you saw the economy fail, and you saw that, going to college for 4 years and then graduate school did not work for everybody because there was a shortage of jobs. It sort of forced generations after us to become more flexible in how they made money, which gave rise to the YouTubes, which gave rise to our podcasts. People are taking a way more active, role in their actual living, the rise of entrepreneurism on just a whole level. And so those kind of things make us different. We're the last, I think, mean old man down the road at the end of the street.
Mean old man.
Yes,
yelling, get off my lawn.
Like, hey, what are you playing on my yard?
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, I've often described myself as that person, but really, it's just like, listen, I'm just a hard shell encapsulating an old soft man.
Oh, really?
Make the world better.
I don't see a hard shell at all. Like, look at you. You're laughing with me now. You're smiling. Like, where's this hard shell energy you're talking about?
No, it could be there.
You're like, don't get too excited. You know what? I might close on you real hard.
No, I just think, though, that sort of, it's really interesting that, I see myself as in one way, and you see in a completely different role.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
And it's it's all about that sort of self-perception. And that perception is, when you go get with people in the older generations and even with our activists, we're so used to what I call it's the behavioral phenomenon of an external locus of control. Environment is controlling us, and we can be very reactionary to everything. The one great thing about the generations that have come behind us is there's an internal locus of control. There's something that I think is great about that love of self and love of self-value and knowing your worth. And I think you guys have been able to see it more than us because you have been able to monetize your own images and monetize your own brands so much. That's something, that's something that has changed.
Yeah.
And so when you see it a lot of times when you do some of the work that I do in community building.
Yeah.
When you not only have Gen Xers, Gen Yers, millennials, but you also have baby boomers left, and then people from generations that are older than that. So I really feel that I've been in a really good situation to work with a lot of different generations and to see a lot of different characteristics and know how to work and pull those together in order to get something done, be on a community level, whether it be on a public art level, whether it just be in pulling together, a group of people and working. I for my day job, I am the director of a clinical trial on carotid stenting at the University of Alabama at Birmingham.
Okay.
So, epidemiologist. My undergrad is in biochemistry, and I'm from Auburn University.
Woo!
Number 2 in the country for basketball. If you get into
yeah.
But it was really difficult converting from what people call a traditional hard science to a social science. But thank goodness that I had parents who were pretty open, that said sort of what we're talking about earlier: never stop learning. You go to school for one thing and you get a job in one thing. That doesn't mean that you have to really stay there and do it your whole life. I think that, the ability to sort of be amorphous in your character and take those and apply them across so many fields, I think that's the actual key. That's the key to getting success. And so I've been at the university for 25 years. So I'm at the point now to where I can retire. So, but one of the things, it's very hard to retire when you come from that thinking, I go to work every day. I don't rock the boat or anything as far as that when it comes to lining the basis of your everyday existence. But then something happened and it just sort of opened up my whole world. And that was the pandemic. I, first of all, want to say I understand better than anyone as an epidemiologist. Pandemics ruin economies, ruin people's personal lives. But, and we can say for many reasons why this pandemic happened, why it spread the way it did. But I think the most important thing is, as an individual person, you have to look at your surroundings and your environment and the situation right there, and you just have to move past it. It's really difficult. I know there was a lot of people who had lots of mental health issues. I feel blessed that I was one of those that was not really having a hard time, because in truth, I'm a little bit of a loner.
Yeah.
Really loner. But you understand what
I do. It's nice to be alone. Yep.
It's nice being alone. And well, for me, as someone who had been working in a grocery store since I was 13.
Yeah.
And working full time and always having a couple of jobs, being in graduate school, it gave me time to sort of rest and become recentered. it allowed me to look at the things that I was doing in my life and just really take account of what, was suffering. What was suffering in relationships, what was going well in relationships, friendships, work, my own personal passions, what I wanted to do. The one thing that I decided is that I did not want to come out of this pandemic worse than I entered in. I always wanted to go forward and be, and I know that sounds a little self-righteous, but I think when you are at a point in your life and you have this opportunity to sort of reset and look at yourself in a different way, I mean, it's fantastic. And during the pandemic, I was able to do a lot of different things. One of the things I got to discover my passion about was public art. And so I think recommended me for this, and just meeting her was so amazing.
Yes.
And let me just tell you a little bit about this. So I live in this historical neighborhood called Woodlawn, which is, it was its own city. It's about 4 miles from downtown of Birmingham, Alabama. It's got a historically, Woodlawn was a wealthy to working class community. There was a movie made about Woodlawn a couple of years ago called Woodlawn, about the desegregation of the high. Yes, so that desegregation of the high school was great for the neighborhood, but you also know it came with consequences. Consequence included stuff like white flight, loss of opportunity, loss of business infrastructure. So when I moved to Woodlawn 18 years ago, right after I had gotten a divorce. I was a single father. I had 3 kids, had twin boys and a baby girl at that time. And so it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So at a point to where my life was falling apart and I was redoing it, I found this little neighborhood which was literally right over the railroad tracks. And at that time, it was considered the wrong side of the tracks. But, what can you do? I went there and I found this little 1907 cottage, and I reconstructed that cottage. And I reconstructed my life at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was kind of like onomatopoetic, everything just really came together at the same time.
Yeah.
My sort of rebirth became cemented in the rebirth of this neighborhood as well. So since then, I was looking for stuff to do. And one of the best ways to heal yourself is to, help heal somebody else or help something else entirely. And for me, it was our neighborhood. And I knew you couldn't do it alone. The first thing that, I did was decide to become involved in the neighborhood association. Now, I don't know if you've ever been involved in a neighborhood association, but you think that national politics can be tough. Try local politics.
Oh my God. Yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So working with the neighborhood for a long time, just to make a long story short, currently I am the vice president of the neighborhood. And we also have 2 really fantastic nonprofits that have pulled together with us to come together with a mission to revitalize our neighborhood without gentrification.
Yes.
We want to promote inclusiveness, inclusiveness, racial inclusiveness, everything in our community, because we want diversity to rule the day. And that's the only way that we see that we can move forward in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
And that includes, doing things for the existing neighborhood to, make sure have, homeowner rehab programs to make sure that people that live there are able to stay in their houses and go because they're deteriorating around them. And alternatives to education. It's not about whether you have a charter school or a public school or a private school. It's about choice, because we know that not pill fits everybody in this situation. Our kids have different needs. Our families have different needs. And so all of that needs to come into the equation before we start, prescribing these panacea cure-alls for anything.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that really I saw that was going on in the neighborhood is the images that our children in the neighborhood were being forced to see.
Yeah.
Every neighborhood has its problems, but when the main images that you see in the neighborhood are of a half-clad, scantily clad woman on the side of a building, or you have prostitution going on, or you have someone that are strung out on drugs, when kids have to walk to high school every day, and that's what they see,
yeah,
no matter how strong you are, it can sort of weigh down on your person and who you are. That's why I became interested in public art.
Yeah.
And so public art, not just a place that people can go and take a selfie in front of and get 1,000 likes on Instagram, but public art with a cause. So I was working with a local artist. Her name's Megan McCollum. She has Blank Space, which is a female-owned artist collective around town. Do beautiful work, and they were really just instrumental in bringing back the public art scene in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And she and I were working on a project with a high school student just to find a wall for this high school student to do her project on, but wanted to do more of the community engagement. So sort of a key piece to link between the community and this, this public art effort. So it went on and it went on. But so while we were walking in we were walking to it from site to site, we decided to cut through this little alley. And I made the comment to Megan, and I was like, come on, let's get through this alley because, it's going to get dark here pretty soon. So I don't want you being out here scared. And she just kind of laughed or whatever. And then all of a sudden, it was like a eureka moment. We looked at each other and we said, why do we have to just stop with 1 minute? Why can't we convert this whole unused alley?
Yep.
It sort of started from there. We had some talks, and what basically came out of the whole thing is we looked around, and one of the things that was really missing from the art scene in Birmingham, a high concentration of female public art. As I always say, and people laugh at this, you can find public art made by a penis in Birmingham, just like that. But what happens to the other artists? What happens to the artists of color, right? So figure out something for them. So this alley, when we constructed the Magic City Mural Festival, it's for all female artists. This whole space will be dedicated to female artists.
Amazing.
All of the work is inspired by the community. And when I say inspired by the community, I even went more specific than that. I call it my love letter to the women of Wood.
Yes. Because
it was during the time of mass incarceration, when a lot of the guys that looked like me were sitting in jail, either dead. It was women that held that community together like duct tape.
Yep.
They're not going to let go. And it's just important to me that as our neighborhood is revitalized, that it doesn't get lost. That story does not get lost. We have a soul in Woodlawn. We have a spirit in Woodlawn. And I think that our public art, especially with the Magic City Mural Festival, just was an opportunity to tell that story and to get it known by everyone. And give those kids a place to go where they see young African-American women in a positive way.
Yeah.
And people that are in our alley. We have a beautiful piece by E.L. Chisholm. She did a double portrait of a local firefighter. Possibly one of the most exciting things is Sophie Tuttle, who's an artist he did a really fantastic piece that we decided to have at a local school in Woodlawn. We decided to have an essay contest. And there was this little girl who apparently sometimes, could be a bit spunky, but that's how we always wanted to be. She actually won, and her face is on the book. So, that teaches a couple of things. Not only is it a great positive image of her, but it also teaches our kids that sometimes just a little bit of effort can lead to something that is just long lasting and you can be proud of for years to come.
Yeah.
But it's just really important, I think, to, protect our artists, all artists. Yeah. It's got me to thinking that, there needs to be more organizations, maybe nonprofits that make sure that our artists have, fair wages, a basic wage. It also makes me think that our artists should have, guaranteed health insurance. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are things that a lot of us don't think about now, but, as many more people have gotten health insurance, but there's a lot of people I know that just don't have it. And it makes it hard to just live day to day. You have to throw yourself into, any job that you can that might provide it for you. And it takes away from your time to sort of do your art and appreciate it for your true talent. So I just think my work in the community sort of led me in this direction. And, I don't really consider myself an artist. I've done, I've done paper, and, I love photography. I'm sort of I try to say that I take the best photos in Birmingham. I will say that. Yeah. Or the best photos that my iPhone 12 will give me. Mm-hmm. But I think it's the eye. And that's another thing I always tell people. And I'm going to give you this little bit of advice, Nicole. Yeah. Only let people take pictures of you that love you. They always see you in the best eye.
Yeah. It's very true. Very, very true. Yeah. I'm so excited to talk to you. But it sounds like this project has been so incredibly meaningful for you and the way that you love and care for the community and the people in your life. And I'm trying to conceptualize all of the things that you shared with me. You were talking about being an epidemiologist and then doing this community work, but also going through this divorce and buying a house and restoring that cottage. And I'm just like, who is this person in front of me? Like, how did you go from epidemiology where, like, I'm trying to pull a little bit more back, like, and hear your narrative.
Yeah. So I guess the thing about me is I'm one of those people that people call the classic overachiever. I think there is even a closer link to my work as an epidemiologist and graduate student to what I do now. One thing that we did is research. And in research, you have to be able to go out in the community and sort of do a quick scale of the people that are going to allow you in, the gatekeepers. So it's the same skills, but sort of transferable to a different set of work. One thing that I guess I was blessed with was a gift of gab. I can talk to just about anybody.
Hell yeah.
Talk for hours on end. And I think for me, it's not about, I know these areas can seem sort of all over the place, and it seems like you may have to do a little bit of code switching to get in places. But I'm the kind of person that I want Jason Avery to show up at the same Jason Avery at every table, at my research meeting, at my board meetings, at church, where I'm a good, happy Episcopalian at Great Episcopal Church. Hey,
love it. Yes.
But yeah, and I think also it just sort of helps that as a kid, I moved around quite a bit. But yeah, so, as I went out and did research, and at one point when I was doing some work out of North Carolina at the Research Triangle, we were doing the National Survey for Family Growth. And so I had to go across the country and go door to door and talk to people and get a survey. So it sort of got me, and the more I did that, the more my, employers were like, you know what, you really kind of have a knack for this. Let's send you out on this community research. But I think probably the best project that I did was called Project AIM, which is Adult Identity Mentoring. And
Okay.
it's a program that myself and another graduate student came up with way back when. And so basically what it says is it's sort of what we talked about earlier. We were looking for programs that would stop kids basically from having sex. Now, that's really difficult because the first thing you have to do is you have to talk to them about sex and find out exactly where they are. Well, a lot of parents didn't like that. So I could sweet talk them as much as I want, but they were some pushback. But also, you have to realize that you're fighting biology. So
yes.
We didn't really believe in an abstinence-only model. I think that just always sets kids up for, really big issues. Even though we know if you are abstinent that you are not going to have sex and you're not going to have a baby. But that's not a way you should look at it. I believe in sort of harm reduction models. Is saying that we know that there's a possibility and we acknowledge that something can happen or a behavior can happen, but we just need to make sure that the person engaging in that behavior is as prepared and does things as safely as possible. That's neither here nor there. But back to the point is that what we came up with for this intervention is a program which taught kids to talk about their future and what they wanted to be. And these kids were only in the 6th grade, so they were about 10 years old. Some people say that this sort of job training was, unnecessary. But what we figured out is one of the difference between kids that were high achievers and kids that weren't was exposure to that information and to actually get you to think of yourself in a different way, as we were talking about earlier with the imagery. So you see some of those things are kind of spilling into what we did with the Magic City Mural Festival.
Yep.
Well, anyway, what was great, we did this intervention that was based on the kids actually choosing a job, making a declaration in front of their friends, and it was amazing. And so what we found is when CDC ran all the results, they found that it worked with little Black boys, which was absolutely amazing because this was, what we saw was abstinence in those who had not initiated sex, and we saw delay in those who had. So CDC named it to their Division of School and Adolescent Health, and now it's almost in every state of the union. It's in Jamaica, it's in Africa, it's all over the world. And so I always like to use that example also is just think one little project that I did in graduate school is now touching folks all over. And so it was great to actually be named an author to that intervention. It's sort of, I would say that with the Magic City Mural Festival is some highlights, of some things that I have done. But as always, I'm looking for the next highlight too, because you just can't be complacent. Of course. You're only as good as your last act. And you rest on your laurels and rely on sort of fame or acclaim for something that you did, last week, much less 10 years ago. Fighting for it. But the one thing, as we talked about, not having to code switch is with those skills, I take those same set of skills, truly listening to people, wanting to know. And I think being a researcher at heart, it gives me that inquisitive mind, dig deeper. And not only am I trying to just sort of put Band-Aids on those issues, I really want to find out the truth. I mean, one thing as a researcher, your goal is to seek the truth. without that truth, all of it's just window dressing, and it's not going to make any difference. You got to get to the root of these issues. And once you do, you can see some change in that area.
Yeah, which is so beautiful to be a part of. You were talking about how, you started that one research with the intervention and then it going out into different areas of the world and knowing that you're affecting people through that. Yeah. And especially earlier at the beginning, you were talking about this point in your life where you're able to look back at, your journey, all these different things. And you mentioned thinking about how it affects people. And you said, I don't want to say it, but it's the ripples, right? And
Absolutely.
I mean, here you are creating positive ripples in this, big ocean, hopefully of a better world.
Yeah. And, it's, again, people have accused me of being, idealistic, but if you're not idealistic, what are you? You always have some types of ideals and not just rest on what our forefathers gave us, especially here, being an African-American in Birmingham, Alabama, which is a city that caused a lot of our activism, a lot of our views on how we conduct modern anarchy, in a way that you can get through. I just think it is an affront to our forefathers to think that we have made it, to think that an address that we can get now where we live means that we have achieved something. Because again, I like to just remind, nobody achieves unless we all achieve. Mm-hmm. And I know that is a way of thinking that is, some people say that's like, that's touchy-feely, but it's not. I mean, it is absolutely not. I can't rest, knowing that other people don't have the opportunities or don't even have the drive that I have. Somebody, it's our goal to share that information with people and to make sure that my mother always said, God rest her soul, that they could never say that I didn't tell them. I mean, people can't do better unless they know better. And it's up to us. A lot of people say, oh, I worked hard. I did this. I did it all by myself. Well, great for you. Just consider yourself a unique person, one of those perfect ones, but still reach out and help other people because no one's an island.
Right.
I can't go out and make my car. I need somebody else to do our car. I can't even weave together this shirt. You see this?
Right. I love that. The mouse.
But I like his little sneery look on it. But I couldn't have made this. I couldn't have done anything. Yeah. It's about, bringing people together. This is an artist from the Neff collection. This hat right here is a local artist. His King Spith. He's in Woodlawn.
Yeah.
If I'm going to wear something, I want it to represent my community, things of my community. Yep. I could go and give, $50 to Ralph Lauren for a hat, but why can't I give $35 to King Spith?
Yeah.
It's about pulling others up. We cannot do it by ourselves. Mm-hmm. Cannot do it by ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I mean, even the people, I say that and I'm like, yeah, we're going to have to fight so many people, though, that think in these smaller realms of meaning and people and just say, my family, my money, hold here, But the reality is the more that we continue to not work together, we have larger things like climate change that are actually, could wipe out our species altogether without significant protection. And yeah, here we are not working together and we're all going to lose if we don't figure this problem out,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I will say, you mentioned climate change, and I just want to say to some people in my generation, climate change is real. It exists. I know I live in a state that is heavily religious. Well, guess what, guys? You can be religious and you can care about the planet. The biggest thing the Bible teaches is to treat our resources rightly. Mm-hmm. Treat our resources rightly. That means not dumping into our rivers. That means not letting excessive pollutants into our air, not melting our caps. So it is real. And I think that most people know it's real. I just think the biggest problem is that they think by the time it affects them that they'll be dead. And I mean, I'm hoping that's true because I don't want to face a world where, Miami is underwater.
No.
How Birmingham has become, sure. Well, I mean, we'll get some return. Carolina then.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
No, yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, in the Bible, in Genesis, Adam and Eve were given the main responsibility to take care of the land and the animals.
Absolutely.
If you, like, for me, I'm not religious, but part of that, that is literally what it says. And I mean, this should be a part of your fundamental, understanding of how you go about the world. And you were talking earlier about, the different things you buy, the producers of your clothing, and making sure that you're not, contributing to larger companies that are making this whole problem worse.
Exactly.
It is our responsibility to look into these things and be conscious about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, because the pandemic taught us everything. Nobody needs a whole closet full of clothes. All you need is a good couple of athleisure pieces.
Yeah.
You're good to go, right?
Yep. That's the one thing, that nature consistently does is, these ecosystems had evolved for hundreds of years before us because no one animal hoarded everything in its corner and ruined this symbiotic balance that we had. And now here we are, the human species, just like hoarding, mass producing, having so many shirts, all of these things just so we can have this. And doing that is also destroying other ecosystems. It's crazy. Like, we don't need more than like a small bit of sustenance. We don't need to take so much.
I mean, I will be completely honest. I do have way too many pairs of shoes, but that's because they're size 13 and I can never find them. So when I see a pair of 13,
you gotta get those. Yeah, no, I know. And it's like, not to say like you can't have things. I have a ton of things. I love my things, but be conscious about it. You know what I mean? Maybe you get those. Go ahead.
I think that's exactly right. It's like, if you have what you have, you should be proud of it and you should, be excited about it. But what you should not do is be a slave to it. You can lose that at any time. What you need something is more sustainable on the inside. You need self, and that's what needs to be built. That's what needs to be built. It's sort of akin, I'm making a leap, but it's sort of akin to what we were talking about earlier, the community as it's revitalizing, right? You gotta know the meaning. The community at a core has to have a self-worth about itself, because without it, everything can be washed away. I don't believe in this whitewashing thing that folks try to do. I mean, it's not right. I know that there's a lot of guilt about the past out there. And when people work together, it can get, pretty hairy. But I just think we have to get beyond it. I mean, minorities for a very long time have been forced to get past deals. I think if everybody does a little more getting past and pulling together and working together, it's going to be great. And I mean, I just feel blessed that I'm able to talk about this. I got to say, I am in different circumstances than a lot of people because I am in a city that is 72% African American. You look at a major city, there's not many major cities where I fit and I am the actual majority.
Yep. Yeah.
Playing with that whole system of still being a minority within the framework of everything. So it's like a dichotomy that you have to face. Yes. It's like Birmingham can become a microcosm, a think tank for the greatest ideas and innovation. Right. Comes to, dealing with racial issues. But at the same time, we're still all in that place of just overall thick, heavy tradition. I mean, we just had a battle of our lives during 2021 and dealing with removing a Confederate statue that was middle of our park. People say, "Oh, you're removing history," and I'm just like, your history to be oppressive to others, and you're upset that it's being removed. Then I'm sorry. There's nothing you can do. Everybody's entitled to that. Now, the thing is, I am not going to jump all over someone for their beliefs, because a belief is a belief. And I'd rather somebody have a belief and truly believe it than to have a belief as a, an offset of their brainwashing when they're young. And I mean brainwashing for everybody.
Yes.
Right. There's a time when, even when I raised my kids, my boys are 21 now. They're living in Sacramento. My daughter's 16 and she's off in college.
Yeah.
I've been going through that with them. It's like you raise them up and you think, you're giving them the best advice. But at the end of the day, once that clock ticks one day over 18 years and 1 hour, you really have no control over them. And all you can do is pray that everything that you've given them will be used and that they will be good people and that they will be happy. When my boys up and wanted to move to California, I told them, I wish I had the guts to move to California when I was your age. But see, that's the difference. I told them I came from a different generation. I came the generation where I was the first kid in my family to go to college.
Yeah, same.
There were people relying on me, not relying on me for financially or anything like that, but just relying on me for making a correction and making our family standard and giving us those things that we had not had before in our family. I mean, my dad, grew up in North Carolina where he picked tobacco and then he in a factory in New York City when he was 16 years old to send money back to his family. My mother picked cotton in Alabama. Met my dad when she was young and she was a housewife, but those were opportunities that they never had. And I just thought it was important, especially when you look back, there were so many people that would have just died for the opportunity I had. So that's something, hey, 4 years, 6 years, I'll still have lots of life, let me do this and get stuff straight to, it's all about, being an example. And if we don't have those examples in our community, what's it all about?
Right. And for you then to be a first generation student, you didn't have that example.
Right. Did not have that example at all. But what I had were parents who were just hell-bent on making sure that I had the best education possible. And, I wasn't allowed to just have crazy language and stuff like that. It was, my mother was correcting me. You would have thought she was an English school mom.
Yeah.
That's what you would have thought. But it was important to her. She just did not have the opportunity. He always told me the story. And I love the fact that my parents were older. So my dad was born October 29th, 1929, the day that the market crashed.
Wow.
Right. And my mom was born in 1940 in rural Alabama. So I'll get back to her story. She was so smart, always brilliant in her books, made top grades. But when she got to be a senior in high school, the family that my grandfather was farming with said, hey, why are you letting those girls go to school? We need help in the field. And so my grandfather didn't buy their books because they needed to. And so my mom, you know what she did? This is the blood I come from. My mom ran away. She looked in an ad and they were looking for colored girls to work in houses in Philadelphia. She actually went up there with her sister and she's like, I'm leaving here. They left. They went in. They were working in the house for a day or two. And of course, my mom, being my mom, got fired after that day. According to them, and I cannot, get any other sources for this, but she ran out the door crying and she ran into the arms of my father. Yes, right? And they were together for 57 years.
Oh my goodness. Wow, what a story.
Yeah. I do come from, a pretty prosperous family. And my grandmother, my mother's mother, even though she did not have any formalized education at all, but she was an official midwife. What happened is they would go to rural sections of Alabama and they would find these people that could deliver babies. And she was certified at the program at Tuskegee. And so it doesn't matter sometimes what your conditions are. You'll still see some of those same family traits, some of those, I call them the ancient archetypes. We just have to dig deep and sort of find them. And we all have examples there. We all have examples there, whether we tap into it on a spiritual level, whether we tap into it in a neighborhood level, whether we tap into it with just our work skills. I mean, you made a great point. What was it that, gave me the power when that wasn't an example? It's like all pulling together on that collective unconscious to make sure that, that you can channel it and give it to the next generation.
Yes. And I'm thinking about your mom running in that boldness to pursue the life and the dreams that she wanted.
Oh, yeah. She knew that picking cotton, in Alabama was not going to be for her. And there's nothing wrong with that. One of my favorite quotes that I used to always hear from this pastor is he would say, everybody just needs to be a little more happy about where we are in life. Change takes a long time. We have really gone from cotton sacks to Cadillacs, and some of us still are not happy. I mean, when I look at the fact that my father grew up at a time where what you and I are doing now, having a conversation, would not have happened. If he was on one side of the street and someone like you approached, would have to cross that street, and he couldn't look them in the eye, not have a conversation. And here we are today in 2022, and you and I are having a conversation about how we're fixing all of this, how to address it. I just think that's not progress. Then what is? But we do have to still know that everybody is not in this situation, and people just need to be given the opportunity to shine and given the opportunity to do something meaningful. There's suppression of that in our society. It's like, if I'm not doing anything, then I don't want anybody to do it. Yeah. It's almost like that whole, if I can't have her, then nobody can have her. It's ridiculous. I mean, to come out of ourselves. We've got to be more self-actualized. I know I use the term all the time.
Say more. Yeah.
As long as I'm 49 years old. I have a house, a car, a job.
Yep.
I have the basics, right? I have those basic things. But where am I mentally? Am I at my highest self? I mean, we could always do better. We should strive to do better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you never know who's looking at you, whether it be a child, whether it be another person. Never know who's going through what, when something that you might say might just give them that little piece of it.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, just don't hold it in. I think people should be vocal. People should be excited. But in all of that, I still think that we shouldn't forget or lose ourselves, because at the end, self-care is super important. And it's not about being selfish. It's about being protective of your feelings, protective of your heart. Yep. Because once one of those things it's hard to move forward.
Right. And if you keep pouring from this, empty basin as you give into other people and keep giving and don't have any protection around yourself, you're eventually going to just run out dry and run yourself thin. You have to have some level of self-protection to be able to give to others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It can be really difficult, though, especially, for people who are out there, like you're trying to make a difference. Mm-hmm. Your podcast makes a difference. It comes to a lot of people that, people don't even know, people don't even know sometimes that they can and do better is not the word I'm looking, it's excel. It's like, it's not about flying, it's about sailing across the sky.
Yeah.
It's just about making the most use of the time we have. I mean, for example, two people that if I could be like them, I would love it. Betty White, rest her soul.
Yep.
And Jimmy Carter. These are people that should have been able to sit down and have us kiss their feet 30 years ago. And Betty White, God rest her soul, she was doing it until the very end. And Jimmy Carter's just announcing today that they're building, like 26 more houses. It's like, how can you stop when you like that? But it's not only the big names, it's about the older women in my neighborhood, those activists that have been around. Miss Darlena King, who has been fighting the battle in Woodlawn for 40 years, Mr. Jones, Miss Bertha Nettles, Michonne, all these people.
Yes.
I'm just lucky to be in an area where I'm able to be inspired. And every day.
That's amazing.
Every day. And you know what? What I love about it is everybody doesn't have the same face. One of my partners in crime is Becca. Becca. Hey, Becca.
Who's Becca?
Becca Fox is, I mean, she's just so hard to describe. Basically, she's a female version of me.
Ooh.
She's a lot more, she's an artist, she's a singer, she's an activist, she pulls together business.
I love this.
She cares about the community. I have never seen a person in my life who gives as much as she does. I mean,
wow.
We just named her our first recipient of our Neighborhood Hero Award that we bestowed, because she doesn't necessarily even work in our neighborhood proper, but she believes in our cause and right there with us. And she's what we want other people to see. She's an example. She doesn't have to be in our neighborhood, but she has to be.
Love that. Yes.
Because of who she is. Just absolutely love her. But it's like our partnership with Becca shows what, like, back to Dr. King's original dream, you know, that we work together hand in hand. We come from different environments and backgrounds, but it's about working forward and building a future so that everybody can thrive.
Yes.
Everybody has a place at the table, that equity is for all.
Yeah, and I'm just so in awe of like this image of your community and what that means to you, because the people that you surround yourself with really do inspire you to, you know, rise and become better and dream even bigger when you're surrounded by such a supportive community. That's so powerful.
Yes, it's very powerful. Very.
Yeah, I mean, I am just so in awe of the multitudes of connections, experiences, your life, the different paths that you have taken, and to like really devote yourself to inspiring a community and hopefully making more ripples.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I'm doing now, my latest thing that I've been working on is a small business, a small lifestyle business. It's called Cottage Noir, which is the nickname for my house Instagram page. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Black Cottage. Love it, love it, love it. But it's basically I'm looking for the intersection of design, drink, food, and fashion. So one of the first things that I did was I would do Southeast Asian food catering. I was lucky enough to take a wonderful trip to London and learn from some of the Indian and Thai cooks. This is food that I had been cooking for a long time anyway, just because I loved it. But now I had the opportunity to learn from the best and bring that back. And so I had a couple of, catering events. And then I came up with an earring line with a local. I'll send you a pair.
Yeah. Thank you.
So yeah, it was a collaboration that I did with a local Woodlawn jewelry maker. It was a jewelry company at that time. It's now Marsuco. Great. We were able to come together and we actually sold these earrings, and the proceeds from these earrings went to the Magic City Mural Festival.
Wow. So
I've also been doing some things with happy hours where I come up with signature cocktails and classes for a couple of big events, some with the city, with a different amount of nonprofit, work with some different bars to come up with some menu concepts. And so in the future, now I get the time to sort of express my fashion side of it. More than just the earring and accessory line. I want to start working on a line of union suits or like really funky patterns. For female, it'll be a little bit tailored so that you can show off the female form. And for guys, big, blocky, heavy, so I'm just different designs right now. I'm going to be working with some fabric designers and see if I can come up with some prints unique to my brand. And it's right now, it's not anything that I'm going to make $1 million off of. It's all about exploring and seeing what you can do. I'm always really excited. I know on my Instagram page, I talk about different recipes or what I may be doing tonight, or I may show off some of my photography. I'm a sucker for sunsets.
Oh, yeah. Stunning. Absolutely stunning, right?
I don't know if you have never seen a sunset in Birmingham, Alabama, you're absolutely missing it. So I invite you to go look in there and see if you can.
I will.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. It's really scary. I did a piece for Voyage ATL magazine the other week, which talked about how scary it can be when you've been on a job for 25 years. It can be really super frightening to give up any of that sort of stability.
Yeah.
Right now, it's been really good. And the pandemic has allowed me as well to explore that side and take it slower and see what I wanted to do. But I do realize, again, my job has been a luxury for me during this time because my business has been something I could just dabble with. I just can't, go on without mentioning, all those folks who had to come about that way because of necessity.
Absolutely.
People, I think it really exposed some things with our society, especially about the service industry, whether you be a cashier. I was a cashier. That's what I started out doing when I was 13 years old. And we all know everybody loves a cashier. And sometimes you have a hateful cashier and a cashier that doesn't want to talk to you. But it's a tough job.
Yeah.
It's not have ever been super nice. But now we're paying the price because people have seen that it's not worth it to be yelled at and have their faces fit in. And so now we're standing in line and people are having to be, patient. And so that's the one thing that I thought would go away is this sort of people being impatient with certain industries, but now it seems to have gotten worse. So, you almost wonder if it will ever get back to the same, but I think it's going to be incumbent on the people who are seeking services to be a little kinder and a lot to people who are really putting their lives into danger with every interaction that they have with us.
Yeah, with the pandemic.
If I come into contact with one person who has COVID, but if I come into contact with 50 people, just got to realize that we just all need to be a little more kinder, more understanding.
Yeah, it's another human. Another, someone's precious child, someone that is loved. Like, how can we see that view of these people, even when they're in these, dysregulated states of high emotion intensity, even when they're lashing out in anger, remembering that hurt people.
That's
and
true.
that comes down from that own pain.
Now, I did see a video online today and I wonder what was going on. These people were fighting in a buffet over crab legs, and this was like 2 weeks ago. So,
all my hopes for humanity.
Listen, the great thing is what I love about human beings and what I love about just people, the world in general, is no matter what happens, we can always maintain a great level of pettiness. And that's what makes humans entertaining, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We can always be ashamed of ourselves. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is just absolutely insane. I've been reading Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Have you heard of this book?
I have.
Yeah, it's just so fascinating. I mean, his story is absolutely atrocious, going to Auschwitz and like really looking at humanity, humans at some of these like forms when you really strip away everything. And he consistently talks about one of the best things that humans kept through that time was humor.
Right.
And I love that. He was like, even though it was grotesque and dark given the circumstances, there was always this kind of humor that was about with the people, because what else can you do in that time of such dark atrocities? And for me, that's what I try to hold on to. Like, let's come back to the laughter, how absurd this universe is.
Right. I mean, I think if you were to interview, or if I were to get to the end of my life, say like at about 106.
Yeah.
People are coming to my funeral and they'd be like, what is the main adjective that you would use for Jason? I think everybody would say he was silly as hell.
Yes.
Silly. I've always believed that there is nothing that a good dry joke couldn't cure for him. I just love to keep people laughing. There's certain people that don't think I'm funny at all. That's the people that have known me for years. Right?
Yes.
They're like, enough is enough.
So when's the stand-up comedy going to come out? You keep talking about what to push and grow to these new identities. I want to see the set.
It is just so funny that you said that, because I've had 2 opportunities. There was this award show in Birmingham called the Other Awards.
Okay.
Basically, it was like, how people get best restaurant and best this and best. We came up with the awards that nobody wants to give, right? So funniest person, blah, 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 best bartender.
Yeah.
So I had to actually go up and present with this local comedian, and I was really nervous. And he ended up laughing at the end of the day, because he was like, I totally bombed, and you stuck every joke, and they loved you. You should be a stand-up comedian. And it was funny. I have a friend who describes me as the modern day Paul Mooney. And who Paul Mooney is. He's an old comic, and you can look him up. But some people have said I should have some kind of show, whether it be a reality show or something like that.
Or a podcast.
I don't know. I don't buy it. I don't think I'm that interesting.
Stop. I absolutely disagree. I hope that when you listen back to this podcast and hear all the different things that you're passionate about, all the different things that you have knowledge in and care about, and the people that you know that have shaped you, so many different relationships. That alone is so much knowledge to have, that I think I completely disagree, and I think you can make some pretty solid content.
Look, see, I already have what I need to become. Atomic right self-deprecation. See, I'm good with that.
Check. That's funny. Yeah. Is there anything else that you really feel like you want to say? Otherwise, I do ask one question of everyone.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the one question that I do ask everyone is, what is one thing that you wish other people knew was more normal?
One thing that's more normal that a lot of people, especially in my environment, is just diversity and coming. It's a normal thing. It is not, segregation still takes place on a high level.
Yes.
Or it be segregation as far as the class of job you can get, whether it be segregation as you are a woman and you serve bees in the kitchen and the guys are outside, whether it be segregation as you're on one side of the playground and I'm on. That's not normal. That's not normal. It is normal for people to want to come together and learn about others' cultures, and it's normal to want to be accepting of other people. It's hard to hate and isolate yourself. Yeah. Coming from a loner, that's very difficult. It's great. It's just like the concept of two different species coming together if they can. The strongest part of each push forward.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we get this sort of thought that diversity is normal, that working together is normal, I think we can take it to the next level. I know it seems bleak and that it sometimes seems that we are one step forward, two steps back, but I truly believe that the arc of life always trends to becoming more progressive and for the rights of people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to use like some physics in this. For every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So you look when everybody thought that we had made it with Obama. Obama was a big reaction, and an equal and opposite reaction followed him.
Yep.
And I just think that we just need to keep in mind that my father, in his words, he was like, I was complaining to him one day about how the world didn't seem to be going in the right direction. And I was just tired of all these sort of like racist and just backwards people. And like, I was born in 1929. Do you know how much change I've seen?
Oof, yeah.
We as humans, we're hungry to see what we want to see, and we see it from our own perspectives, but step outside ourselves. I just think the story is a little brighter than we give our story credit.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, diversity is normal. Being excited about waking up in the morning is normal. Believing in yourself is normal.
Yeah.
Helping out other people is normal.
Yes.
All normal.
Mm-hmm.
Waking up one day and not wanting to talk to anybody and burying your head in the sheets, that's normal too. That ebbs and flows. You just have to keep going in the right direction.
Exactly. I love that ebb and flow. It's not always happy days. There are those low days, but recognizing that, I always equate it to, the ocean, waves, learning to surf, like it's a powerful form of nature and you learn how to ride it, and you get back up.
And how do you know the joy of being able to ride that wave if you haven't fallen on your face 1,000 times?
Exactly.
You learn the true elation of like being joyful.
Yes.
Failed 100 times. To put yourself out there.
Yes. Yes, I love absolutely everything that you said. There's been so many points of, inspiration to giving back to your community, connecting, beautiful artists that you have mentioned, and just so much positivity that I feel radiates from you. Even, sometimes people stay in this positive space and then ignore all of the realities. I feel like you have such a healthiness of recognizing the pain and reality, but still projecting towards future joy and focusing on that trajectory.
It's all about, if you're going to do this work, if you're going to do this cause, it's all about balance. It's all about balance, because you can't move forward if you're ignoring what's in front of your face. You can't. It's just like in our community. I think our community is great now. We have so many things going on. But would it have been that community if it weren't for the white flight and the times that, if we had never undergone it, we would have just been the next rich suburb from the city. And that's not what happened. And it didn't happen for a reason. And, one thing that I want to mention, and I don't know if Nico talked to you about this, but in her mural, and this just takes it full circle, in her mural, she did a portrait of this little kid named Maxwell. Maxwell's grandfather had fled Birmingham back during the time of the church bombings. Wow. When the 4 little girls were killed. So he left and he went out to California. Now, she's painting that portrait of Maxwell, and it sits in the alley. At the end of the alley is a funeral home. And that funeral home is known for being the place where that church bombing was planned. Wow. So with just art and pulling together people, and we were able to reclaim that space. Yes. How that space can be not only used by everybody to come through and see these positive images, but these spaces actually lead onto a business strip. And so now during a time of COVID, these businesses are able to expand into the alley and their businesses are a lot healthy. So it's all about trying to get the lowest hanging fruit that can affect the widest amount of people.
Yes, yes. And trusting that, eventually all these things do come full circle when you put in that work. I love this. I love this energy.
It might take forever, but it's going to come.
Yes, exactly. Have that go-getter energy and build and be bold. Ugh.
Yes.
Is there anywhere that, I know you mentioned your Instagram with your house. Is there anywhere if people want to learn more about you and what you're doing that you want to refer them to?
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at Cottage Noir 149. That's COTTAGENOIR 149. You can also have a personal page, which is called Jason Avery 009. So it's at Jason Avery 009 on Instagram. And you can also follow me on Facebook at Jason Avery. And you'll see a picture of me in this hat.
It's a hat. Yes. I love it. I love your energy. I love your smile. And it was just so fun to get to talk to you.
It was fantastic talking to you. I was a little nervous. You never know how you're going to translate to the younger folks. But, you just got to be confident in what you're doing and knowing that you truly do have something to give. And like we talked about the ripple, me meeting Nico was no mistake.
Yeah.
It led me to you. It led us to this moment.
Exactly.
And these moments are fleeting. We don't have them all the time. I just think any opportunity that we get together and we're able to engage and spread those ideas and have a communication with people who've never known each other the day before, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's how we truly shake up the system. See, us, as we talked about earlier, they want us to be on our islands and in our cocoons. That's why I said it is not unusual to be together. Then we know.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, we could read about all these ideas, but I think what is so profound is hearing two humans have a dialogue about it and the meaning and hearing the, emphaticness with which you're speaking. I think that's what pulls other people, conversations, relating rather than just ideas. And so for me, I feel like this podcast is such a beautiful journey where I can just connect and allow people to spread these beautiful messages of positive and joy. And you mentioned a love letter earlier that you do. And I was like, this is my love letter to the world that I send to people.
I am just so impressed. I've been listening to your podcast about a week. I just love it. What I love is the way it truly is just having a conversation. I love it. I was like, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? And you're perfect. You're perfect in what you do. You're perfect in the way that you sort of allow self-exploration and move throughout it. I did focus groups in research for years, and your skills are what we try to teach to have. I realized I probably have been talking 10 minutes straight in one point.
And I'm still like, yes, I'm with you. I'm tracking everything. I'm holding it up here.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. That is a learned skill, that active listening thing. But I love it. It's such, for me, I love to sit back and get to hear people's narratives and so much truth. And you've lived through so many experiences that I think are profound at any level of activism. Those local people you were talking about to the big people doing larger level stuff. Like, we all have such truth as humans who have walked this earth to share with other people.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100% agree.
Well, this has been so lovely, and thank you for those words of affirmation. That's so kind.
Oh no, I'm telling you, you're doing a great thing.
If you enjoyed today's episode, then leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're a part of the Anarchist community, then follow us on Instagram or nominate a guest for the show by sending in a letter to modernanarchypodcast@gmail.com. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.